by summons here. Dear members of the Planning Committee, you are hereby summoned to attend the reconvened meeting of the Planning Committee from Wednesday the 6th of March 2024 to be held at the Council Chamber, Guildhall, Derry on Thursday the 7th of March 2024 at 2 p.m. And I'll pass to Maura to take the attendance and apologies. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've had apologies from Councillor Gallagher and apologies from Councillor Barr, Jason Barr yesterday. So we'll just run through the list here. Alderman Derek Hussey? No. Alderman Keith Kerrigan is not here. Alderman Neary McMorris? Okay. Councillor Jason Barr was apologies. Councillor John Boyle?
Here.
Okay. Councillor Sean Fleming?
And Sean.
Okay, Sean. Councillor Paul Gallagher was apologies. Councillor Christopher Jackson.
And Sean.
Councillor Fergal Leonard.
And Sean.
Okay. And Councillor Rory McKee.
And Sean.
Okay. Councillor Sean Mooney.
Here.
Okay. Councillor Patrick Murphy.
And Sean.
Okay. Councillor Lillian Barr. Not here. And Councillor Grace O'Neill.
Apologies.
Jeez. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Maura. I'm going to read the broadcasting statement next. Your members would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. If you are seated in the lower public seating or media areas, it is possible that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in the possibility that your image will become part of the broadcast. By entering the council chamber and using the press or lower public seating area, you are consenting to being filmed and consenting to the use and storage of those images for webcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. If you wish to avoid this, you should move to the upper public gallery. A copy of the council privacy notice may be found on the council website. Next item is declarations of members' interests. If members have any interest now, you take them, or you can offer them in the currency of the meeting. Number 5, chairperson's business, just to say that we have 2 remaining applications. That will be item number 10 and then followed by item number 2. And I'm going to move on now into the applications. I'm going to ask Malachy to take the next application, and that is number 10, LA11 2023 1855/F. Change of use from dwelling to house of multiple occupation, 30 Lower Violet Street, Derry. Thank you, Malachy.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Item 10, LA11 2023 1855/F is a full application for change of use from dwelling to house of multiple occupation at 30 Lower Violet Street, and the recommendation is to approve. Sorry. I'll share that now. Sorry for that. Sorry, apologies. So item 10, LA11 2023 1855 is the change of use from dwelling to house of multiple occupation at 30 Lower Violet Street. The application site is located within Lower Violet Street, which is an existing residential area characterised by 2-storey terrace properties. The site is located within the waterside area of Derry. It's located within the central area, but just outside the commercial core as defined in the Derry Area Plan 2011. The existing property was a 2-storey mid-terrace property characterised by a pebble dashed finish and slate roof. There's no alterations to the proposed property as shown by the existing and proposed elevations. In terms of the existing floor plans, there was 4 bedrooms located within the existing property, as well as living areas and kitchen area at ground floor level. And the proposed floor plans, again, are set out before you and also from the case officer report. And the proposed development will have a bedroom at ground floor level, one bedroom at first floor level, and two bedrooms at second floor level. The policy context is set out within the case officer's report. In terms of consultee responses, we've consulted DFI Roads and Environmental Health. The DFI Roads have indicated for a proposal of this nature, 3 spaces would normally be required, and Environmental Health have given standard response in relation to HMO properties. There have been 7 letters of objection and a petition from 6 separate households within the locality. The main issues raised are an increase in parking problems, issues related to existing businesses in the locality, and particularly a taxi rank, accessibility for emergency services and healthcare providers, loss of single family accommodation, concern about proposed occupiers, antisocial behaviour, noise levels and security. The officer's consideration of these objections are contained within the report. In terms of the policy consideration, the site is located within a central area as a defined residential area, which proposal CA5 of the area plan indicates that there should be a protection of residential stock. Officers considered there will be no loss of residential stock given that HMO would fall under the same use class or use type. In terms of residential amenity, there's no proposed extensions and therefore there will be no impact on nearby residential properties. The amenity in terms of the existing yard is satisfactory in terms of private amenity space for the proposed occupiers of the HMO, and it's concluded that the proposal complies with the SPPS in terms of amenity. And in relation to nearby residents, as indicated, there's no overlooking or privacy issues. There'll be no significant issues raised in terms of noise, and therefore officers consider there be no adverse impact on the residential amenity of nearby properties. In terms of impact on character, the existing character of Lower Violet Street is primarily residential. Officers consider that the introduction of this HMO at this location will not individually be significant or harmful to the character of the area, and that the property could easily be re-inhabited by a family should the building be required for that use in the future. In terms of parking provision, TR5 of the area plans that the site is located within Zone B. This allows council to take account of the nature of the development, availability of existing parking on-off street parking and all our local circumstances. Parking is not designated, but there's parking outside the existing terrace properties within Lower Violet Street. DFI Roads have indicated the normal parking standards for a development of this nature would be free parking spaces. Officers have considered the fallback position in terms of the existing use of the site and have concluded that the proposal will not generate any additional parking demand above what already exists for the existing use. Therefore, having considered the above, it's concluded the proposal complies with policy AMP7 of PPS free and TR5 of the area plan. There are no issues in relation to natural heritage. The proposal is in compliance with NIHE standards. Officers have concluded, have taken into account all material considerations, including the prevalent policy considerations, local representations, as well as consultation responses, and have concluded that a recommendation for approval should be put before members today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Maggie. Members, we have a speaker here on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Joe Diamond. Joe, do you want to come down here? Thank you. All right, Joe, thank you for coming today. And you've got 5 minutes to address the committee, so you want to take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Afternoon, Chair, members. I'm here today to speak on behalf of my client in support of this application. A brief history about the property. My client purchased the property and it was vacant in 2022. It was on the market for approximately 2 years prior to this, and it was sale agreed several times throughout this period. We think 3 times, but each time they were unable to secure a mortgage due to the significant dry rot, rising damp, penetrating damp, and out-of-date electrics, rendering it effectively unlivable in its previous condition. My client has already stripped, repaired, and damp treated the property, and pending the approval of this application, it is their intention to renovate and improve the property to modern day standards, which is only to the betterment of the property itself and the whole street. There are no extension works involved with this project, nor are there any extra bedrooms being added to the property. Just renovation work to fix all defects and all internal improvements to bring the property back to a modern day standard. These improvements will extend the useful life of this property for a further 60 to 80 years. We wholly agree with the planning officer's decision to approve this application and hope members agree. I'm here to answer any questions if required, and thank you for taking the time to listen to me in this matter.
Okay, Joe, thanks very much for your presentation there, and going to offer out to members. And Councillor Jackson, I think you've looked to come in there.
Oh, thanks, Chair, and thanks for coming along today. Just a very brief question, because I know the area very well, and the area and the adjoining streets are plagued with dereliction, so any steps taken by owners to bring buildings back into use and provide homes is really, really welcome. But we can't ignore the fact that there's massive parking constraints, and there's a huge demand for a residential parking scheme. But until that happens, there's major parking pressures in the area. And a note in the report, officers had requested that the applicant provide a car parking survey, but that wasn't forthcoming. Is there any explanation of why that the applicant didn't feel that it was a requirement to provide the car parking survey? Thanks, sir.
No, we feel that, and as stated in the planning officer's report, this is already a 4-bedroom property. You know, it's not a 2-bedroom, you know, or a 3-bedroom. It's a 4-bedroom property, and this could accommodate, you know, 4 to 5 adults already, potentially requiring 1 car parking space. Therefore, we feel that this proposal will not result in any additional parking requirement and is not likely to give rise to any additional parking than what currently exists in the area.
No, thanks, Sharon. Just to come back, it's disappointing that we don't have a car parking survey attached to this application that could highlight that. And I think I might have been following on from the advice from our planning officers, but I appreciate the response. Thanks, Chair.
No problem, Councillor Jackson. Anybody else wish to come in on that? No? Okay, we'll move on. I'll make you questions to Malachy. If anybody's got any questions for the officer, please indicate. No questions, so for members, I'm going to put it to you. There's a application in front of you for approval, which is the recommendation. So I'll hear from anybody who wants to make a proposal. Councillor Jackson, yeah.
Sure. Again, I'm really sympathetic with the concerns around car parking, and I do feel that officers or we as a committee would significantly benefit from having that information detailed in front of us. But like the officer, as Malachy has presented in his report, on balance, considering the existing 4-bedroom property and the need to bring these derelict properties back into use, it does when you're weighing that up against the additional car parking or the additional parking pressures that this may put on, I think the benefits of bringing derelict properties back into use will improve the wider area. As a councillor for that area, I'm constantly getting contacted by ASB that is associated with derelict properties, and I would like to see more applications come to this committee to bring buildings back into use. Well, if they're not going to be retained for the original residential use or the original family use, as I think this is a lesser evil. So I am content that all policies have been met, and I'm content to propose that we accept the officer's recommendation to approve. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Boyle, yeah, thank you for that proposal, Councillor
Just to
James.
say, Chair, thank you. And again, thank you to Mr. Diamond for coming in. I concur completely with Councillor Jackson. It's desirable to see derelict properties come back into use, whatever that use happens to be, and notwithstanding the very obvious parking challenges that we have in many neighbourhoods, and this is another good example of some of the difficulties. However, Chair, again, similar to that, on balance, I think it's important that properties like this come back into use, so I am content to second the proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. So we have a proposal to accept the officer's recommendation. Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Boyle. So can we go to the vote? Nora, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this is item 10, and it's a proposal to accept the officer's recommendation to approve. Alderman Derek Hussey isn't here. Alderman Keith Kerrigan isn't here, so we'll go on to Alderman Neary McMorris. Thank you. Councillor Jason Barr, his apologies. Councillor John Boyle.
Or
Okay. Councillor Sean Fleming.
No.
Okay. Councillor Paul Gallagher's apologies as well. Councillor Christopher Jackson. Okay. Councillor Virgil Leonard.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Rory McHugh. Okay. Councillor Sean Mooney.
For.
Okay. Councillor Patrick Murphy.
Uh,
Okay. Councillor Barr isn't here, and Councillor O'Neill isn't. Apologies. It's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you, members. There's no dissent in that, and that application has been passed. Move on next to the next last remaining item for the applications, and that is item number 2, LA 11 2022 0938F. That's erection of a wind turbine at lands approximately southeast of 165 Donnybrook Road, Dunnamana. And who's taking that? Laura? Yeah, Laura, thank you.
Good afternoon, members. Application LA 11 2022 0938F is an application for the erection of a wind turbine with a 40-metre hub height and 27-metre blades, associated substation and control room and all our associated site works, and it's located at approximately 353 metres southeast of 165 Donnybrook Road, Dunnamana. The recommendation is to approve. This application has been referred to committee for determination and has also received more than 5 objections, which is why it's with members today. This is a site location plan, an aerial image of the application site. It comprises of a circular portion of land within a larger agricultural field and the existing laneway, which are located south of Donnybrook Road. The application is located within the countryside and approximately 5 kilometres southeast of Dunnamana and approximately 7 kilometres north of Plumbridge. So this is some images of the application site and the access point onto Donnybrook Road. It sits on the southern side of the road and it's a slightly elevated position above the road. So this is the elevations and the site location and layout of the proposed turbine. The proposals for the erection of a EWT DW54 wind turbine has a 40-metre hub height and 27-metre rotor blades and a power output of 900 kilowatts. It includes a substation and a control room building as well, which are indicated there in the drawing. So this is the policy context under which this application's been assessed, including the Strabane Area Plan, the SPPS, and the Planning Policy Statements 21, 2, 3, and 18. And there's the guidance there as well for wind energy development and renewable energy. So in terms of consultations, a significant amount of consultations taken place, and there have been no objections to the proposal. Some of the consultees have proposed conditions and provided advice, which would be standard for these types of applications. We have 17 letters of objection received in terms of this plan application. So this slide just highlights the points that have been raised, and these are considered in detail in the planning officer report. So this proposal was amended during the processing of the planning application, and it was reduced in terms of the rotor diameter in order to satisfy noise limits, and also in terms of the actual hub height of the proposal. So that is the application which is now before us. And also it's just to note that there was a previous approval for a wind turbine on the application site with a 40-meter hub height and a 30-meter rotor diameter. That didn't commence, and it has now expired. And that turbine had a 55-meter height to the blade tip. There's also a nearby approval for another wind turbine, which hasn't commenced and has also expired. So in terms of the plan policy under which this application's been assessed, that's policy RE1 of PPS 18. So in terms of the visual amenity and the landscape character, this proposed turbine has the same hub height as that which was previously approved and considered acceptable. It has a 54-meter rotor diameter, which is an increase in that previously approved, which was a 30-meter rotor diameter. And therefore, and overall in terms of height, it increases from 55 meters to 67. So this turbine was considered from a number of different vantage points, which are outlined here on this image, just showing a number of different road locations and other locations within the area. And the agent submitted a visual assessment in that respect. These are outlined in the planning report. All the visuals have been included, but I'll just quickly go through them here. So this is images from the Donnybrook Road showing the proposed turbine and that which was previously approved. Again, we have Lisnara Road, Loch Ash Road. This is Rusky Road. So this is from Green Road and the Walking Trail Junction, showing the existing turbines is approved, which haven't been implemented and that proposed. Again, we've an image here from Green Road, Hafad Road, Meendamp Road, Murlock Road, and the Walking Trail here as well. It's an image showing the turbine as proposed. We have an image here from Loch Ash, Napple Road, and finally an image here from Murlock as well. So in terms of the visual impact of this proposal, it's not considered that the increase in rotor diameter from that previously approved is significant to adversely impact the amenity and the landscape character of the area or the AONB. There's no existing turbines or extent approvals within the vicinity of this proposal. Therefore, there will be no immediate cumulative visual impact. So there are a number of wind farms in the long distance, which you can see in some of those images. They're Owen Ray, Eglish, Slieve, Kirk and Carryfree. Closest of these is Owen Ray, which is 5 kilometres away. So therefore, it's not considered that there's a visual impact of this turbine or a cumulative visual impact of this turbine when considered with those wind farms. So just overall, in terms of the visuals on this application, in consideration of the location, the site and layout and design of the LCA guidance and policy RE1 of PPS 18, it's considered the proposal won't have a visual impact on the Sperrin Mountains, the countryside, or the A5 from the A5 tourist route, and therefore complies with policy RE1. So just then, in terms of further considerations within that policy, just to note again that the proposal was amended during the processing of the application to satisfy noise limits. There's no cumulative noise assessment required because there's no other operational turbines within 2 kilometres of the site. The shadow flicker assessment predicts that there will be shadow flicker, but it will be below the limits at the closest properties. There's sufficient separation distance to the nearest well on a public road in terms of any falling distance, and there's no issues with electromagnetic interference. So the proposal complies with policy RE1 and the SPPS in that respect. In terms of biodiversity and nature conservation, NIA and SES have been consulted in this respect. NEA have no objections to the proposal, and as do SES. They are both content, provided that there's mitigation conditions through the planning approval, which has been considered in the SEMP. They're content that there'll be no significant impact to local bat populations, and that there won't be any issues with regards to birds that would be considered significant, and also that it wouldn't directly affect any designated sites. So therefore the proposal complies with policy RE1, PPS2 and the SPPS in this respect. In terms of public access to the countryside, which is also considered under RE1, the proposal uses an existing access lane on Donnybrook Road. DFI roads have proposed visibility displays. They're of 2.4 by 70, but there is 2.4 by 53 to the northwest. We are content that the access is only to be used for a temporary period during the construction of the turbine and any associated servicing, so it won't lead to an intensification of this access beyond the level which it can currently be used. So therefore we're content that the proposal complies with policy AMP2 of PPS 3 and policy RE1 of PPS 18. The support statement does outline some environmental and economic benefits of the proposal. These are appreciated, but we haven't afforded them determining weight. But overall, just to summarise, we are content that the proposal complies with policy RE1 of PPS 18, and approval is therefore recommended, subject to the conditions which are set out in detail in the planning report. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. We've got 2 agents here on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Stuart Clark and Mr. Adam Larkin. Would you like to come down here just to the committee? Thank you. Okay, gentlemen, thank you for attending today. Anyway, protocol is you've got 5 minutes between you, so whoever's doing the speaking, you can take it from now. 5 minutes, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and members of the committee, to allow us to present to you today, or be present today. My name is Adam Larkin. I'm joined by my colleague Stuart Clark from Gravis Planning, the agents for the application. We concur with the report and the recommendations made by your officer here today in respect of the proposal, and we would like to make ourselves available for questioning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the indication on that, Elmy, and I'm going to pass over to members now for any questions they may have. So, members, if you want to indicate if you have any questions for either Stuart or Adam, please indicate. No? Okay, but thank you, gentlemen. If you just want to sit there, these are for a moment. I'm going to pass over to questions for Laura. Anybody wants to come on that? Nope, no questions. So members, over to you now. There's an application before you for approval. I'll take any proposal that be forthcoming now. Thank you. Councillor Jackson. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, I think the level of objections to this application does highlight the fact that there's sensitivities around renewable energy in this part of our district. And I know in previous terms of this committee, we've discussed the impact of wind turbines, particularly in and around their areas of AOMB, and the impact that they would have. In relation to this application, and we do look at each application in isolation or on its own merits, but we'll consider the cumulative impact of particularly in relation to visual impact and the impact that it would have in the landscape. But on this application, the one thing that jumps out at me is the previous approval and the planning history. And when I look at the previous approval and the history on this site and comparing it against the approval or the application that's in front of us today, I'm minded they supported it. I don't see a wild lot of difference. I know that there's additional conditions that are attached to this approval, and in that vein, I am content to propose that we accept the officer's recommendation in this case. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson, for that proposal. Is anybody second that proposal? Councillor Jackson, or sorry, Councillor Boyle, thank you for that. Okay, members, that application for approval has been proposed by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Boyle. Maura, could you take that to vote, please? Thank you.
Okay. Members, this is item 2 and it's proposal to accept the officer's recommendation to approve. Alderman Derek Cousin, Alderman Keith Kerrigan are absent. So Alderman Neary McMorris.
Or.
Thank you. Councillor Jason Barr was apologies. Councillor John Boyle.
Or.
Thank you. Councillor Sean Fleming.
Ta.
Okay. Councillor Paul Gallagher. And here. And Councillor Christopher Jackson. Okay. Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rory McHugh. Okay. Councillor Sean Mooney.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Patrick Murphy. Thank you. Councillor Barr is absent and Councillor Grace O'Neill's apologies. 17. There's one abstention and 7-4.
Members, that application has been approved, 7-4, one abstention. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming today, Emily. Much appreciated. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, members, moving on now. The item number 7, call for evidence. It's a consultation from DFI on the review of the SPPS on the issue of climate change, pages 47 and 62. And John's going to kindly take that. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Chair. So, yeah, members will have seen the report in your pack. So this is a consultation from DFI on the strategic planning policy statement on the issue of climate change. So the SPPS, as we call it, members will be familiar with it. It is a key planning document for the whole of Northern Ireland, which sets out strategic planning policies, and it consolidated the previous suite of strategic subject planning policies into a single document. So it's quite high level. And this is a call for evidence consultation that we received from DFI, and it's to do with a future-focused review of the SPPS to kind of future-proof it for climate change. So views are invited by the 28th of March, and we prepared a draft response letter, which is in your packs. Appendix 13, and you will see that it sets out some areas where there is scope to strengthen the SPPS even further. And there's also copies of the consultation in your packs. So the Climate Change Act 2022 came into force and set a net zero target by 2050. And that requires decisive change in the approach to the climate crisis. And the current consultation explores whether the SPPS remains appropriate and fit for purpose in relation to climate change, and whether it could be enhanced by review. So I direct members to the series of questions that DFI posed, which are summarised in the consultation document, and there's a link in the pack. So the SPPS must be taken into account in the preparation of LDPs, and the emerging LDP draft plan strategy has taken full account of it. But we don't need to slavishly adhere to it, and we have developed some of the policies even further in response to local circumstances in the district, and also in response to other expediencies, including climate change. So in June 2019, this council declared a climate emergency, and the emerging draft plan strategy fully embraces the climate change agenda, and the policies are as forward-thinking and climate-proof as they could have been, often taking matters further than current requirements in anticipation that climate change targets will keep rising. And it's considered some of these advancements could be replicated in the SPPS review. So the SPPS and the emerging LDP are already to a large extent future-proof with regard to climate change, but some matters could be taken further, and that's what we've set out in the draft letter. So, for example, more emphasis could be given to the importance of bogs and peatlands as carbon sinks, and more encouragement given to their retention and restoration. So there is a paragraph in the SPPS that mentions the importance of active peatlands for carbon storage and for biodiversity, and states that renewable energy development on active peatland won't be permitted unless there are imperative reasons of overriding public interest. So this could be strengthened and included in the more general sections to also promote the restoration of peatlands and ensure no further degradation of them. Also, biodiversity net gain is not yet a legislative requirement in Northern Ireland, but it recently became mandatory in England. So biodiversity enhancement is also an emerging requirement in the Irish National Planning Guidelines and the county development plans. So as in our LDP, the SPPS could at least require no net loss of biodiversity, so that each development brings about no harm to biodiversity. Ecosystem services are referred to in the SPPS, whereby a quality environment can bring in economic benefits and resilience to climate change. For example, trees can reduce the effects of flooding and provide urban cooling, and it's suggested the SPPS could be made stronger in this regard. Also on flood risk, the consultation document explains that DFI already intend to cover allowances for climate change in the definition of floodplains, and this is supported. But we're also suggesting that sustainable drainage systems could be the preferred drainage method for all developments, which is what we're also doing in the draft plan strategy. And the proposed strengthening of the transport section is supported, including shifting travel modes from private cars to public transport, promoting active travel, reducing the length of trips. So members are asked to note the contents of the report and to agree to planning officers responding to DFI as in the draft letter. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for your presentation. Many members, any comments or questions for John on that? If not, are members happy for the draft letter to go out in its current format? I'm sorry, Councillor McHugh, go ahead.
Chair, and thanks for the report. Just to make the point, I'll accept what you're saying there. It's important that rural communities, people living in the rural communities, still have an opportunity, to live in the rural communities, and accept that they do have or there's an onus on them to maintain the land and make sure the land is used in an appropriate way. But just to make that point, that people from a rural background should still have the opportunity to make their home in the place where they come from. Thank you, Chair.
Can that be noted there, just for what Councillor McHugh said? Does anybody want to come back on it? Yeah. Thank you, John. Do you want to, or Maura, whatever?
Yes, so that's welcome. So we can consider, that in our final response. But yeah, that's noted, and we'd very much expect for that to continue to happen, and we've tried to, take it into account. Thank you for the comment.
Marie, you okay? Or do you want to come back again? Okay, members, moving on to the next item, which is, just give me a second. Okay. Oh yeah, number 10, implementation of the improvement quality of submissions pilot validation checklist. That's number 10. Who's taking that? Maura's going to come on there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to do a brief overview before Suzanne goes into the detail of this paper. Members, this is the first of a number of pilots and projects we'll be bringing forward to yourselves in the next year. This is, I suppose, in some ways was preempted last year. We had sent a paper around regarding the principle, and I'm making an agreement with yourselves and doing some preparatory work in advance. But in the basics, in and around the improvement of quality of submissions and the front end of the whole planning system, and to be reviewing that aspect of the system at first. So this would be one of a few that will be coming your way. This is specifically relating to the validation checklist initially, but we will be coming to you in regard to pre-application discussions and making early decisions as well. But again, we will bring forward proprietary papers in advance. So it's just as a reminder, and clearly these are some of the aspects of these will dovetail into the review and some of the outworkings of that. So it's just a wee reminder that's kind of a part of a wider overview and a wider project that we're planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Maura.
Okay. Yep. So members, just in continuation then, so last June we brought in an introductory paper to you outlining what we were proposing to do locally in council to improve the quality of submissions that we would receive. And currently there is a list of basic validation information that's currently required set out in the legislation. We hope the legislation will be amended that DFI set out in the call for evidence last January 2023. So we're hoping that will be published at some point, but we're just not sure yet. So in taking this forward, as we've been recommended to do, we have also then, and you were circulated it back in June as well, our draft additional supporting list of information that will be required for specific types of application. So in terms of the logistics of this and the practicalities, we are proposing to phase in this requirement for the additional supporting information from the 13th of May, this year, initially over, just 5 types of application initially, and we will commence engagement with agents in April to advise them of our proposals and our start date and what will be required. So those 5 types of applications, we have highlighted our domestic household extensions, single wells in the countryside, single wind turbines, up to 2 single turbines on an application, all changes of use applications and applications for agricultural developments. And then we will monitor the implementation of this pilot and take on board any issues or feedback we receive on the back of it. And then phase 2, we will roll out to the remainder of the applications and that we would be receiving. So I've also, in addition, so you will have received previously the basic list of validation last June, the things that we require, like the fee and the P2 and the ownership certificate. Then we have the list of supporting information. And then what I've done is just did a table on the current basic requirements per application type. That's just to help agents anyway. And then I've highlighted, I've highlighted the common examples of the additional support and information required. So for domestic household extension, you know, we would be expecting all urban to have a daylight sunlight overshadowing assessment. This is information that we would more than regularly be requesting anyway to enable us to progress these cases. Single wind turbines, you know, all that information is required before we would even send out a consultee on it. So until we would get that in, you know, we can't start processing it. So that's what we have, that's what we're proposing and asking you for your views today and your consideration. I'm happy to take on board any questions and your comments. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Suzanne, and for Maura previously. Councillor Jackson, come on in there. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Dame Maura and Suzanne. And I know this was something that was discussed as part of the reform and planning workshops and working group. And I think the idea is to have a more efficient planning system and try to improve or have a more streamlined system and service. And this is a huge element of it. We completely understand the workload that our team's under. And and this is one way that could significantly reduce that if planning officers aren't continuously having to chase up information, if that information is front loaded. I do like the idea that it's a pilot and there can be a staging post where we can reflect on what's working, what mightn't be working, and maybe make changes if necessary. But I think when we think of the purpose and we want to try and have the best planning system on this island, that's our objective, and we don't want unnecessary barriers to development. And I've no issue with anything that's contained within that. But I do have a question in relation to, particularly in relation to biodiversity surveys. No, there may be times of the year that those surveys can only be carried out. And so if we're asking applications to be front loaded, essentially you're stalling applications until those surveys can be carried out. Is there any flexibility in relation to that? So if somebody was to have an initial application in, but subject to the season, that the biodiversity survey could be submitted when appropriate. Just in relation to that, because you just wouldn't want unnecessary delays on the processing of an application. But in relation to the rest of it, fully endorse it. Thanks.
See, on that point, Councillor Jackson, that is something that has given us a lot of difficulties over the years, is the fact that even when a planning application's in the system, we are obliged to await the survey and then send it to the NIEA in order to get advice. There would be a huge risk in moving ahead and progressing an application without doing that, given the fact with protected species, and the reason for maybe requesting it in the first instance is because of the nature and the location of the application. So it's been a significant issue across the whole of Northern Ireland, this potential delay. So it's delaying the applications at the moment that come into the system. Could be, it could be there for 2 or 3 months before maybe we're going back to agents and asking them for it or waiting for it to be submitted. So essentially this is about asking before development takes place that agents consider the site and do proper due diligence. And it's highlighting very clearly, depending on the nature of the application and the location of the application, that these additional supporting bits of information where they'll be required. But unfortunately, I think the answer is that particular element, we do have to ensure that we have that document. And the experts are obviously indicating there's only a particular part of the year that could take place, given, Mother Nature. This is we're constrained by that. And it's most definitely one of the big issues across all councils about managing this. And we have never taken a risk to proceed without it. So, I mean, unless Suzanne, you have any further thoughts on that?
I think it's totally get your point there, and it's, as Maura says, is something that we have grappled with. I think the piece here is that, agents need to recognize that when they're taking on work, or they're, that they need to advise that, you're demolishing a building, you're going to need a BAT survey, or we're going to need to do something here, and I need this before I can put in the application. Comments from colleagues in other councils, which would deal with sort of a similar range of applications, they have met with some resistance, but on balance, it's much more efficient, and agents will be able to. Agents have commented to them to say, look, we're advising applicants that we can't submit it until we do it. Do you know what I mean? And but I've no doubt we are going to come across bits and pieces and challenges that we haven't maybe totally thought about at this stage. But yeah, we will be. I mean, the reason for the pilot is that we can look at that, see how maybe we can improve, listen to people, and obviously wait until the legislation actually comes through as well from the department. Thanks.
No, thanks for that. I suppose, and I wasn't suggesting the council take a risk in relation to processing or deciding on an application without that information. It was more along the lines, if there's other issues such as roads consultees, NA water, or any of the other statutory consultees, they could be done and in advance of the biodiversity survey being carried out. So it helps it helps speed up the processing of the application rather than we're not accepting it until until we've got all the information front loaded. And just that would be my only concern, is it might be quicker if we could consult with our statutory consultees in respect to that application and in advance of receiving the biodiversity survey. If the advice from yourselves is that that's going to cause more problems and it's going to create more of a risk for council, then I would be content to wait until and let this pilot run out and see how we go with it. But for a layman, it does seem a more sensible approach is that that you start dealing with issues or or consult on the issues that we know about. And if the only things left is a biodiversity survey, then it might make the processing of the application much quicker. That's and the only interest here is just they try and speed up the process and not create any unnecessary barriers to development. But I'm not suggesting for any second that we take a risk and that we take decisions on an application prior to any of this information coming through.
Thank you for that, Councillor Jackson. And just, Maura, do you want to come back in just to reply? Thank you.
Yeah, I suppose it would be useful to find out to what extent that would be holding, you know, in terms of the number of applications that would be affecting. And I suppose we don't really know yet what we would be hoping to achieve really out of this whole process is for applicants to plan ahead and agents, sorry, to plan ahead and have applicants ready and prepared before when they're considering development. I mean, we've talked a lot about retrospective development in this chamber too, but what we're trying to do here is do our best to have that pre-planning done. And I think that it would be useful to find out how effective it is with our agents in terms of how many applications are affected by this. Because as Suzanne said, it's quite automatic with experience when you go out to certain sites now. I mean, officers are highly experienced. I remember before this was ever a requirement. And I mean, people now are highly skilled at this, so I don't see any reason why a lot of the agents we know that when they're preparing a site and going out, that it does take them a number of months to prepare drawings and location maps and pulling these things together, that at the outset, one of the key issues is about a biodiversity checklist and survey, that they need to be doing that at the very first thing. If I was an experienced agent, that would be the first thing I would be doing on any site would I would go out or speak to any client. So, and then all the other things will come in due course because, you know, you've got that season, you know, and I think well-seasoned agents at this point know when they submit applications at the wrong time without surveys that their application will sit, because the majority of our other consultees will come back within a certain period of time. So I don't know, I think it might be useful just to work out, get some feedback on it and see maybe how many agents that it might affect, you know, without it. Maybe that's my suggestion.
No, see, in relation to the suggested approach that's in front of us, no, I am content that we proceed on that basis. I was just highlighting that there may have been a quicker way, but I appreciate your expertise, and if that's advice, then we can see how the pilot rolls out and reconsider if it is more expedient, they revert back. So for this instance, content they keep it on there. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Thank you to the comments from Maura and Suzanne. I suppose the test pilot will give us the evidence that we need to make a further decision on how successful it is or how it's working anyway. So I don't see anybody in dissent anyway, so I'm going to move on anyway. Thank you. Councillor Leonard, sorry, do you want to come on there?
No, it's definitely not dissent. I agree with it as well. But no, I was just to mention again, I know Christopher there mentioned about seasonal information not being available, but what about the likes of the situation we're in as NIA at the minute and the whole lack of information with regard to ammonia advice? Is this going to have a greater impact going forward? Well, we all hope that they'll come back providing us advice shortly, but I'm just a wee bit concerned about that.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Leonard, this was raised before, if you call, in the committee, and we had agreed, the committee had agreed that we write to NIA on this matter, and we did formulate a letter, and we haven't received a response, Chair. I don't recall, so maybe we could send a reminder in regard to that, the general concern that you had about the delay and the issues on around that specific topic. But in terms of NIA and consultation response times generally, probably since then there has been an improvement, and we have had some communication between ourselves as head of planning and the chief exec of NIA. And there's also discussions about our new prioritisation system that we discussed at head of planning meeting recently, in order to take up their offer in regard to trying to improve kind of prioritisation certain cases generally. But overall, they did provide us with some statistics that showed there was an improvement in their performance. So I had intended to bring a paper back Councillor Leonard, once I had received a response about our specific letter that we sent here from our council, but I haven't had that, so, but we'll prompt that, Chair, and then I'll bring back a further paper in regard to that, if that helps.
Thank you very much, Maura. That'll be most welcome. Thank you. Oh my God. Correct.
Okay, members, we'll move on now and to open for information here, numbers 9 and 10. List of decisions issued and appeals updates. So if any members want to raise something out of those two items, then please do. If not, we will seek to go into confidential. Okay, members, could I have proposer and seconder? Councillor McHugh proposes to go into confidential. Councillor Leonard, second that. Thank you.